All right, video number 100. It's big, it's a milestone, even though, it's still here. But yeah, definitely a milestone, definitely hit some point. There's a lot, definitely looking back at 100 videos ago, which was about half a year ago, or more than half a year ago. We've grown a lot. So a lot happened, a lot has changed, and that's kind of the whole purpose of this. So I did structure this video a little bit differently. I do want to maybe kind of explain more, sort of recap on everything, explain the whole vision again, what we're doing now, kind of what it developed to, talk a little bit about myself, about why I'm here, how I'm here, what we're doing, and then sort of, where the channel is planning on going, where I'm going from here, because I do think that that's important. I'm not setting a limit on this video. Normally, I do try to do around 15-minute videos. I do want to do this in one take, because I still do believe in that one take method, but I did set a little more time. It's earlier in the day than usual for making the videos, and I think it's a good point. This is a milestone point. We've hit this point. Hopefully, it means something. Hopefully, it means that we can keep going, right? Just the fact that we've got to this point, I guess, shows a certain level of consistency and a certain level of commitment. Nowhere near where it's going to be. Obviously, like I said, this from the beginning, this is a long-term plan. It's a long work, but we got here, right? We're here. We're at video number 100. This video may get looked back on in the future, being that it's a a number that's known. And yeah, I guess we'll see where it goes. So I want to start off with talking about the overall vision again for Etheria. Just talking about really where we are, what the plan is. The goal is Etheria is there is building a space elevator, right? Building an elevator to space, which ultimately will change the reality of how space is accessed, how people go to how space is accessed in general, right? It's not about people going, it's not about resources being sent there. It's about really opening up this dual access system, right? Having a structure, having real connection from Earth to space, which will allow all that sci-fi concepts that we dream about and think about to begin happening, right? And not saying those will necessarily happen, but what we could do is we can make a real economy that works both ways and really open. Again, it'll fundamentally change it. Similar example there's a lot, right? Is sort of the smartphone, right? It wasn't a necessary technology, but it revolutionized the world. Having handheld computers, having a handheld device that can pretty much do anything is changed the world. It changed how everyone or how the people that have it relate and do things. So that's really what a space elevator would do, right? It'll ultimately change how space is accessed. Right now, in the space industry, in the space world, it's very limited. Government organizations, very, very expensive costs, and it's mostly for satellites, research, some exploration, but again, no real, or not no real, again, satellites are a major value to everyone on Earth, but resources, real value that the average person can see, feel, touch, and know about, right? And that's what we can open with a space elevator. It's really just a scalable way to access space and do everything. But as much as a space elevator is a great concept, we have to think realistically, right? We can't just build a tower to the sky. So just simply put, I'm just going to explain the idea very simply is imagine a string tether uh, being held up by the fact that Earth is spinning. So Earth spins, rotates, right? And there's centrifugal forces, the same type of forces that push clothing to the side of a washing machine, the same forces that those like spin toys that like the hop balls, whatever it's called. Uh, those that force can be used, right? What we do is put a counterweight at the end, and then have these robotic climbers, the elevator carts, let's call them, that go up and down, and they can release payloads, they can transport stuff, again, both ways. And the key point to why this is such a necessary technology is it's really scalable, right? Rockets, as great as they are in rockets, are still much quicker and will always be they'll be kind of like the airplanes, right? That quick, easy access, but it's costly. It's not going to be cheap. Rockets always have the rocket equation. So we're kind of reaching limits of how big rockets can get with, say, Starship or things like that. Uh, we can't go much further unless we really figure out a new way of making energy, and I don't want to get too technical, but basically there's only so much power that we can get out of raw materials. So unless we come up with nuclear fusion or some type of or nuclear, yeah, like a nuclear engine, unless we come up with a nuclear engine, or we come up with some new way of getting energy out of matter, we can't really scale rockets too much more. There's only so much propulsion, so much thrust that you can get out of specific amount of material burnt. And then the issue with rockets is the more material you add, the bigger the rocket has to get because the more weight it has to bring up. And then that just keeps scaling, right? And it scales exponentially. So at some point, you're not just growing it by the size that you're bringing up. You're actually getting it so much more just to get that size up. So ultimately, rockets don't scale. And rockets could be good. Like I said, it's not necessary, right? Technically, we could have done well with home computers, and rockets could do that for us. We can get to space, we can access it, we can build some type of economy there and some stuff, but we're really limiting it, right? Now, if we have this future where we can do something more, we need a different system. And the space elevator is the simplest, most logical way to do that. Now, a space elevator, though, isn't again, it's just a start, right? Like the sample that we're saying now, the one that we're working toward is really just that first one, right? The Saturn V, or not even the Saturn V, but of space elevators. It's going to keep it getting advanced. It's going to keep scaling, but the advantages are there's no issue with scaling. Obviously, it's a lot cleaner, obviously a lot more efficient. There's a lot of benefits besides for that. It's slower though, and like I said, so that's one of the big ones. But ultimately, it's a necessary step if we want to really open that up. Now, obviously, there's the side of space not being important. I would disagree with that, and I can tell you, right? Obviously, there's value. We're going to run out of Earth value, and as much as we keep using resources on Earth, we're slowly diminishing them. Now, humans may die out before we run out of resources on Earth, but we want to expand our life, right? We're human, we want to keep living and we want to keep going further. So if we want that, we need to figure out how to get beyond what we have. There's also obviously the economy, I mean the economy, there's also the environment, which we have. We also have the people's aspect of it, right? The advantage of space is it really opens up so many more resources and so much more value that doesn't take away from anything that exists here. So all it does is add more to what exists here. And if we could do it cheap enough, what we've essentially done is we basically created ways to suddenly mine tons of certain metals for a single use case. So a single, rocket that gets sent brings an asteroid back. Suddenly you have more metals here than we've had ever without having the tons of people that are required to run the mines, without having the many, again, and that's very often done in a way where many lives are destroyed or people have bad, it's not a good situation at the moment. We also have the ability to just keep getting, right? We're not running out of resources. Again, space, I don't think I need to make a case for space right now. If I definitely have videos on that from before, but also there's so much on that. And if space is definitely the future at some point. The question is how soon and how much of a value are we going to really bring to people living on Earth, right? And that's the key thing. What the space elevator does is it doesn't make space this cool economy that works for the few, the uber wealthy and the big corporations. It really makes it something that the average person understands and benefits from, and then can create that circular running economy. Good idea, but the space elevator doesn't exist yet. So why, right? And the reason for that is the technology just isn't there yet. We don't have the technology necessary to build it, right? We don't have material that's strong enough to do this. A big part of it is also the public perception. We do need that kind of collaboration on a global aspect. Building a physical structure to space, as you can understand, is very complicated, very costly, it's very potentially easy to get sabotaged and things like that, where we need to mitigate those risks and work together with a lot of people. So the world still needs to get there, and that's the build-up process. So Etheria, my company, is focused on eventually building a space elevator, but currently working on the immediate steps that are needed to get there, right? So it's a very open structure plan. As we know, things will change. The early stages now are working on material science, where we have a company developing that. We're working on ways to make the material that's necessary. And then obviously the public perception and the reach and the understanding of this concept to get people to engineer these concepts further. And then moving from, and that's so that's the first stage of Etherea's plan. Moving from that, we're going to go on to more of the practical testing stages where we want to build companies around actually using tethers in space, whether it's for mining an asteroid, making a little mini asteroid elevator, could be cleaning up satellites, it could be making a lunar elevator. There's many use cases that we can come up with. And again, that'll depend on where the market goes over the next few years and where there's real value, right? If we start really making an effort to clean up space, that could be a real great use case. If we're colonizing the moon and sending resources back or to the moon, again, another great use case, right? There's a lot of value in a tether, in tether systems in space, and that'll also really prove the concept on a working scale for a few years. And then from there, we'd go on to the full, bigger project where we're actually constructing and making the real space elevator, which will still take time too, right? It's a long process. It has been researched a lot, and the current plans are, a very where we basically send an initial tether up and then just reinforce it over time to make it stronger and bigger, and then obviously send second elevators up and third and many more. Uh, Key point that I want to make is the space elevator isn't this like rockets. It's not this beautiful, fun way to access space. It's really rough infrastructure. It's not there to look pretty. It's not there to be cool. It's just rough infrastructure. It's the shipping routes, the shipping yards, those just the rough infrastructure to get a lot of resources to and from a place that's really far away. And that's and consistently, cheaply, and everything else. The goal ultimately is to really make space access into something like a toll, right? Literally, we can cut the costs down from the thousands of dollars that it would be, regardless of how advanced rockets can get, to tens of dollars or hundreds of dollars, not even hundreds, yeah, literally tens of dollars. Imagine paying $70, $80 to get a kilogram up to space. That's pretty much the same as international shipping for from flying. So like that, using air freight. Obviously, it's cheaper with a ship, and again, that is, as I said, we're going to scale from there. But even further down the line, yeah, a space elevator can really make space access be something like a toll and super cheap, super easy to do, where all you do is pay a little bit to get stuff to space. And again, that's the ultimate goal, all step by step. This is a long-term plan. Realistically, it's going to be a 30 to 40-year project. And that's the point, right? This is a lifelong mission. There's a lot of steps that will need to happen. And a lot of things need to go right. But again, ultimately, the reality is that regardless of if the space elevator happens, the learning and the growth of this project will help and develop many necessary technologies regardless. So it's a great project to look at. It's a great thing to see. And if it happens, or like I believe when it happens, it'll change the world, like really change the world and the way a lot of things work on Earth. Um, so yeah, so that's basically the long 40-year, 30-year plan in a few simple steps. I have a website, ethereaspace.com. You go to the website, look at that. That's explains some stuff a little bit more and stuff over there. Now, currently, what's happening? I have two current companies working on this. We have Etheria Graphene, which is the materials company working on developing a method for manufacturing two-dimensional materials at scale. Two-dimensional materials seem to be the way to basically print and create brand new materials, which basically means a one atom thick material. Two-dimensional, right? It's one atom thick. You can layer it, you can do different things with it, but ultimately the actual molecules are one atom thick. Now, these materials are constantly being researched and advanced. They're mostly produced at small scales, or really expensive because of the complexities and also because of the use cases with them at the moment. But again, those are all being advanced. What we really need, though, is a method to produce these materials as single molecule, right? Graphene is one of the materials that could potentially be used for a space elevator. Those are carbon nanotubes, or hexagonal boron nitride is another one at the moment. These can all be used, or I'm sure there'll be some more materials that'll come out in the next few years that probably would be able to be used. But regardless, these materials can be produced, but currently only at very small scales. So what we're focusing on, and this is an early stage company, still pre-seed, but really working on the concept that we have, and hopefully going to get to that point. Now, secondly, and the more active and more moving part of the project is WSPEC, WSPEC, which is the World Space Elevator Competitions. And that's where we are growing from, we basically are hosting competitions, STEAM competitions. So, science, technology, arts, engineering, math, things like that, technology for the development of the necessary technologies. But from a business perspective, also with practical applications now, right? So we're a nonprofit organization that runs and hosts these competitions. The competitions have been held since 2005, or there have been some sort of competitions held since 2005. It's evolved over the years. 2005, 2009, it was held as part of NASA Centennial Challenges. From 2009 to current, it's been held in Japan by the JSEA. In 2011, also through current, have been held in Germany. And what WSPEC is basically we're a collaboration of all these organizations coming together and making one united effort to grow these technologies and to grow technology in general as a whole, but with a target of the space elevator. So we host university level competitions. It's really a win-win for everyone involved because ultimately we're advancing proven and valuable technology while also, again, generating awareness, getting people to think about big stuff, right? STEAM competitions are currently held all over, very often without goals, right? Just let's host a robotics competition, or let's do something that has a specific target right now. But what we're doing is we're developing direct technologies that help for the future. Currently, we have two competition categories. We have a climber competition, which is developing robotics, and that's where teams basically design and build robotic climbers that can go up and down a vertical tether, high tether, the highest done so far is over 1,200 meters, so really high. And yeah, held up by a balloon. That's what's been done, and just have these robotic climbers go up and down. Separately, we also have, and then again, robotics is a field that's constantly being advanced. This is also a very unique playing field. It's different than many other robotics. It's not a rover challenge or something that drives around. It really is a new way of thinking about efficiency in robotics. There have been spin-off technologies directly from the climbers themselves that have now some companies are in terms of just ones for like railways and monorails, things like that. Again, but then besides that, there's also the many different smaller technological advancements that people make in robotics or in using certain parts, engineering stuff, things like that. So yeah, again, a proven field, it's working, and we host the competitions for that. We also have the power beaming competition, which is something we're launching this year. Although there was part of this NASA Centennial Challenges, there was also power beaming, but we're relaunching it on a smaller scale for university level students where basically you beam power over a short distance. Now, power beaming is a major industry right now. It's becoming much bigger, obviously, with the very obvious use cases. You can beam power to, say, a drone and keep it up forever. You can also beam power to remote locations, or if there's disaster, for disaster relief, imagine a town gets a flood and suddenly we can beam power there. So rescue efforts don't have to run on generators or bring in massive batteries to run their systems. And that's, again, world changing. Power beaming is something that's constantly being advanced right now. And again, we're making competition to directly focus on that on a small scale where our focus is not so much on long distance power, it's on efficient power beaming, where we beam power from across 5-10 meters, but very efficiently where we can send, receive, and use. Great case, great value. These are all things that are this is currently happening. If you are interested in joining the competitions, visit our website, see a lot more information over there, wspec.org, wspec.org. Sponsorships, anything that you're interested in. We're doing outreach like that. We're a growing it's a global scale competition, so we're really collaborating with everyone. Currently, like I mentioned, we do have more collaboration of organizations from around the world. So we do have an organization in Japan, the JSCA, VAR in Germany, which is TUM in Germany, United States, with ISAC, Etheria. But again, really a growing effort and the point of it is just to develop technology regardless of where the elevator goes, but or not. And something maybe I should have mentioned in explaining Etheria is each of the companies that we're going to develop, each of the plans that we're going to do are meant to be and built to be self-sufficient. So they'll all be able to function and run on their own, regardless of the space elevator, except the actual space elevator build itself. But each of these individual companies, or everything I mentioned, and anything that we're going to keep spinning off and growing on, are there to develop these technologies. Now, like I mentioned, the main lacking points right now are the material science and the public perception outreach. What the materials, what Ethereum Graphene does is it's developing the materials. That is relying on breakthroughs, which we don't know when we're going to get, but we do know that if we get more people thinking and working on the issues, we can accelerate that breakthrough. So that's that focus. And then obviously from the public outreach perception, or also to get more bright minds to think about the issues, right? Really just getting that global work to know about this and work on this concept is what WSPEC is doing and what WSPEC is able to keep doing. Also building that next generation of engineers and people that, first of all, have great skills that can go off right now, but even longer term to actually develop and really build the functional space elevator. So great advancements there. And yeah, it's really just proving that everything is good and step by step of what we're building. The goals with WSPEC over time, obviously, is to keep advancing, adding more technology categories to develop that we need. Material science could be a part of the competitions. What's it called? Motor and design and engineering is another one that I think would be very valuable. Because currently, right, running a motor up a full elevator 100,000 kilometers is a lot of, a lot of rotations and a lot of wear and tear. So we need to develop motors further, make them efficient too, obviously, and be able to pull enough payload. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of future things. We want to test that in space applications too, maybe be able to test some of the materials in space. Again, a lot of a long future, all developing necessary technologies while working toward this great eventual goal. So yeah, that's really big. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, so I think that's a good rough picture of that. Now, what I want to talk about a little bit is myself. You want to talk a little bit about who I am? I haven't kind of spoke about my opinions on some stuff throughout the videos, but not really about my personal life. But I think it's important a little bit to explain kind of the person behind all this and why I'm even doing all this. It's not something that the average person really cares to do or even thinks about. It's a very, very big, ambitious project, a chance. And again, thinking realistically, right? Ultimately, I'm a realist. I guess I can start with that. I understand the reality of something like this working. I understand how many parts need to move correctly, how many stuff need to go right for this to ultimately happen. But I also understand the value once this happens, right? Ultimately, once we build something like this, once we get this up and running, it's not uncomparable, right? It's a really world-changing thing that we're intentionally doing. So yeah, I guess just explain a little bit. Growing up, I grew up in a very religious household, had very limited or almost no access to the internet, but I grew up in a world with the internet. So I knew that the knowledge is there, the information is available, I just wasn't able to get it. As I grew up, as I moved on in life, I started, had this drive to research, to learn, to know more. And eventually thought of this concept of, I love space as a kid. That was one of the few things I was able to watch. I would fight for it, but I was able to watch launches, and I just watched them over and over. I love, for some reason, it made me happy. Either way, the point is, I guess, there's a lot of that information. It's available and thing, and eventually, just having this drive to constantly keep learning, I got to eventually thinking of this concept of, hey, what if we can't space isn't scalable right now. Rockets aren't scalable, and understanding the problem without really thinking of I didn't have a direct answer. It was more, I know we need to figure something else out. Started thinking about that. Eventually came, figured out the concept of a simple space elevator, not nearly as advanced, obviously, the work that already has been done by people that are way smarter than I am. Some of them, specifically Dr. Bradley Edwards, who wrote the thing for NASA, he's part of our team now with WSpec. But again, same kind of thing. We have these, started doing research, realized that this is actually something that exists and there's work in it, and decided that, if it's going to happen, there needs to be some people that make their life about this and really commit to it, regardless of where it goes and understanding what it really takes to get there. So yeah, started working on it casually, not really too actively, uh, but that was good. During that time, separately, I had a really, out of nowhere, kind of had this terrible skin condition that just came out of nowhere. My whole skin was sort of peeling, coming out. Yeah, it was really, really bad. I couldn't move. Literally couldn't move. Wasn't hospitalized, so it wasn't, I guess, that bad, but it was bad enough that I couldn't leave the bed. I was in so much pain. And yeah, went to a lot of doctors, tried figuring it out. Eventually, we really didn't figure out exactly what it is, but we did get on some medications, which I'm still on, that prevent it from coming back, at least. What that did was, though, it really taught me this concept. And since then, to just be happy with life, right? I started understanding that there's wants and there's needs, and stuff that we want are important, but stuff that we need are really what we need, right? And ultimately, what we want is great, but it's not necessary. It made me start appreciating really what I have, just, and I think that's an attitude. It's not what you have, it's not the amount that you have, it's just appreciating whatever it is that you have because you have it. Start appreciating just health, just waking up healthy in the morning, started appreciating just just being able to do stuff. And yeah, that was great. It changed who I am as a person. It also made me stop driving for say financial success or to be respected or things like that. I guess the standard values. It made me really realize that there's goals that are much bigger than your own personal ego or your own personal wealth, and to start working toward those things. So what can we do that's totally selfless? Now, part of that bigger plan, yeah, I loved working. That's just something that's totally separate. I'm a workaholic in that sense. I just love it. I'm in the office, or I usually am in the office for 13 hours a day on 6 days a week. So really, again, it's a mindset, but I love it. And that's a personal thing, but again, that, yeah, all this stuff together, I guess, come to building who I am. But the it's just this constant push, right? Not a push for anything other than the actual goal that you're trying to target. Learn to start throwing ego aside, learn to start throwing, you know, uh, the money aspect aside, right? There's no money in it, at least at this point. But there's really, those things that I think drive regular people or the average person sort of going beyond that goal. Now, at the same time, very much value everyone else. I respect the people on my team, the people around me way than more than I do myself, but also more than yeah, I guess maybe more than I would say an average person does. And that's just an important point, right? Because I don't want to say, yeah, that I'm just this yeah, disassociated person. The opposite, right? It's more associated, more in tune with everyone else, and I see myself as just a vessel throughout everything to just really accomplish this big goal. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I will work to have proven that it's not possible, or something else, right? And big thing of this also is I know that by doing this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create competition, I'm gonna create other things, and that ultimately start from the beginning. I was always, it's okay, right? Like that's what I want. Ultimately, the goal is to have a space elevator on Earth. If I'm the one who builds it, or if I push someone else to do it instead of me because now it's possible and they have the funds and they can do it themselves, go ahead and do it, right? By all means, like that's what I want. It's not about me doing it. Yeah, I'm trying to do it at this point, and I think I will do it. A lot of it is because it's a very tough project, and unless you really are committed to it, it's going to be very hard to get into. But at this point, it's all collaborative, right? There's no competition. It's let's work together, right? We can both get much further if we work together than if we work separately. But even once we have a space elevator, I would, and I think this all the time, but once I do manage to build a space elevator, I'd probably build a second one and give it to someone else, right? Just to have competition, because what that's going to do is that advances everything, right? If there's competition, we have to be better than the competition, and then there's constant growth. So ultimately, the goal is really to help humanity in as many ways as possible. That's my life mission. It's really to help as many, to really, and the way I phrase it is to raise the minimum quality of life as high as possible. It's not about, it's very easy to say when we're living, living in the United States. It's a lucky life. It's a good life. There's a lot of people that have it way worse. If you're watching this, you're likely also living a pretty decent life just because you have access to this, but both everything, right? It's really, I think, and that's kind of this whole thing about bringing space to Earth, and then obviously more goals that I have beyond the space elevator if I can accomplish that, with still enough time to do more things. But the with the space elevator, right, what we're doing is, like I said, bringing more resources here without having to hurt people. So it's just about raising the value on Earth overall, or raising or lowering the cost of goods, right, or of necessary goods enough that there's so much that sure, there'll always be an elite class. I don't think that's realistic to say otherwise. There'll always be those people that have way more, but at least the people that have less will have enough to have a really good, decent life. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Imagine every person on earth has food, has a place to live, has enough, resources to be comfortable and enjoy their life, has a purpose, whether it's a job or something that really gives them a reason to keep going. We can do that. It's doable. It'll take a generation or two, but it's really doable. And that's my purpose, right? That's what I've made my life about. And I think the space elevator is really that first step. So yeah, I think that's a pretty rough thing about myself. I don't love talking about myself. I do have this very internal thing where I was trying not to say not to talk about myself, and I do that a lot nowadays. But it's just a real internal thing of trying not to be self-centered, but at the same time, okay, yeah, I guess, in this video, I really do need to explain who I am. So yeah, hope that's good. I hope that explains a little bit of where I'm from and what I'm doing. Now, finally, with the video, I do want to get into what I want to do with the channel, right? So the purpose of this channel originally is created to show the work, right? To show the day-by-day life of having a big dream, having a big concept, start off with space elevator. Didn't really know. I mean, I did know by the time I made the videos. See, looking back to some of the early ones, it was, I had kind of the overall plan. W-spec did not exist. The concept of W-spec did not exist. I knew I wanted to have some type of push in the sense of, well, at that point it was outreach and legislation, things like that. It turned into W-spec over these videos. So if you do watch them back, or at this point, you kind of see the development of WSpec as a company. We're still just starting. We launched officially 2 months ago, so we're still in our early stages. But yeah, really working toward that and being that company. When I started these videos, I think I started the day I officially founded Ethereum Graphene legally. Ethereum Graphene is currently the parent company also of the full Ethereum, so that's the full thing. But yeah, it's just really how much has happened and really seeing the day by day progress where not every day it's as interesting, not every day there's as much going on. And that's the point, right? That's the whole point of these videos. Right? Obviously, there's going to be the big days. There's going to be the day 100. There's going to be the day 1,000. There's going to be the big stuff. But the one day at a time aspect of it really just being a day by day thing it's like that. But that's where we are. And that was that plan. So now the journey overall is the success, right? It really is what is driving all this, and it's what the reason of these videos are. Because ultimately, I know that whether I succeed or fail in the long run, if I succeed, these videos will be an incredible insight, right? Really seeing into the progress and the beginning stages, or even I mean, as we keep going, but the stages of doing this. If I don't succeed, and for whatever reason it doesn't end up working out, these videos can still teach someone, first of all, to just do something, and hopefully teaches you little lessons along the way. Each one hopefully teaches, something small, some insight that I have, or something that happened that can teach you something. It can also teach you where to do better. right? If I fail at some point for whatever reason, how can you not make those mistakes? And right, ultimately that's what I'm saying. These videos really don't have a loss. There's always going to be a gain to anyone. I always think back to at some point in a long time from now, someone will go back and watch all these videos and will be able to really get this full broad picture of whatever ended up happening, of this life, of this career, of this, yeah, whatever it ends up becoming. Uh, but I think it'll be very much for seeing how a space elevator is built, which will be a very interesting journey to be on. But yeah, and then now I think a key thing that I want to also stress with this channel and with this is that my whole business philosophy in general is about finding win-win partnerships. And I believe partnerships are so much more efficient. I spoke about this in the video a few days ago, but partnerships are much more efficient and a much better way to do business than a business transaction, right? Than an actual passing over of money, right? Because ultimately money is that thing that you always need to have an extra value point. I'm not going to go and explain it fully now, but basically, the goal is that if you can create, you can always create a partnership. You can always create a situation where everyone involved wins. It may take some thinking, it may take some creative work, and it's not always as efficient for an individual company, right? Especially if it's not enough of an outreach or enough of a value point. But in big business or in doing anything big, it's really the most efficient way. So it's something that I'm really trying to do, is trying to push throughout here with everyone, with anyone watching this. If you're watching this, if you have anything or if you're just interested, reach out. We could find something. We could find a point where you'll benefit and I'll benefit and we'll all benefit just because of working together. And that's what I'm saying. We all really end up caring about ourselves. It's really about what our missions are. Like I said, my mission is about raising the minimum quality of life, and that's what I'm living for, and that's what I'm going to keep waking up in the morning and working hard for. Whatever your mission is, right? If it's to get a certain car, that can be something that we can figure out and work towards. I'm not saying I'm built up with that specifically, but if your goal is, let's say, to have a certain position, or your goal is to make a certain amount of money, or your goal, whatever your real goal is, and it has to have a reason to have that goal, right? Your ultimate goal, not just, the rough front. Yeah, reach out. Let's talk. There's definitely connections there. Now, yeah. So now these videos are great. I do like to keep doing these. Like I said, these are going to be the same style as this, although maybe a little bit less structured. Here I kind of wrote down notes. The point of this is one take, one thing. I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you're watching this and you're interested in helping out with this channel, absolutely, let's talk, right? That can be a great benefit point. Maybe editing the videos, maybe doing something like that. We can work together and make this into something bigger than it is right now. But at this point, I think it's also the time of it. I don't have that much time to spend. Like I said, I really do have my time pretty maximized to doing the bigger projects. And yeah, this history of it is just not that important, I guess, at this point. Uh, but important enough to spend 15 minutes, a half hour a day just putting something together, but not really, yeah, I don't spend hours like it would take to really get a big channel up. But that's really what it is, right? And I do plan to keep doing this. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do this for. Obviously, at this point, like I said, the time is there. Probably seeing the future, I think I'll always be able to give a half hour to do this, but I don't know, right? There's no way to know what tomorrow holds. Like I said, we'll see where it goes. We'll see kind of the efficiency of it and also the value of it, right? I have said this in many videos, but if I become a person that has to have a certain character or needs to conform to certain values or rules, yeah, not these videos are kind of free form. A lot of times, maybe I'll say something that I don't, yeah, really want to go with, but something that I say in the moment, and that's part of the one take process. But it also isn't necessarily good for having a certain image. So yeah, I guess we'll see longer term. I don't know about that, but at this point, everything should stay, and I don't think anything should go anywhere. So yeah, video 100. It's a pretty yeah, it's a nice point to hit because it really just to me it shows also that I've been able to do this and not quit along the way or not of the videos. Forget about the business side. That for sure not. That can keep going, but even just to keep these videos going. I'm also looking now, and this was something that I've been trying to do originally with the videos. The point was, and I mentioned this in a little bit in another video, but the videos, one of the initial points of the videos was to get me more comfortable talking on camera, being in front of people, which I think has helped. It's helped a lot. I definitely think I speak a lot clearer. My language, my vocabulary has gone up in past 100 days. I think we can also see that. There's also more clarity and like my thought structure. It's not perfect. I still think I speak way too quickly, and I still lock up when I'm in front of real people. So, looking to start a podcast, and this is an open invitation. I really need someone to do this with, someone who would join me, help me with this. The goal is, and the point of the podcast would be to pretty much interview different CEOs from a business perspective. I think, I think business mostly, but really interviewing other CEOs or different people around the world that are trying to build companies or have built companies and just basically picking their minds, right? Here's what are you doing? How can we improve it? And then at the end, either trying to find a collaboration where we can work together or try to find a way to open up a collaboration for you or something like that. And that's ultimately the goal. And I think even just figuring something out internally, right? You can work together with someone within your team that does this and this, right? There's a lot of value points there, but I think if we think about it like that and really turn it into a thing, it can really work. So this is that invitation. If you're watching at this point, reach out if you're interested. I do need, a co-host or a co-person to do it with, someone to help out with it. And yeah, just looking for that partner and that thing to really host this podcast and start running that. So yeah, again, totally to finish this off, we will, this again, open invitation for anything, reach out. Like I said, my goal is to help everyone if I can. See, I won't be able to help every single person individually, but I can definitely try and help as many as possible. There will be something. I can tell you that if you have the guts or the drive to just reach out, there's always going to be something somewhere. And if not, it's a shot, right? There's going to be a lot of shots, and that's one thing that now with outreach and stuff, there are so many shots that I take that miss, that no one responds to, that no one cares about. But that's the game of numbers, right? If you're going to keep persisting, you will eventually hit that one that succeeds. Yeah. But either way, again, just one final invitation to join, to help out, to I mean, help out, right? For me to help you, for us to help each other. I think that's the best way to put it. Just reach out, talk. Again, there's an email I think I'm pretty sure I have an email in the description. If not, you can always go to one of our websites. Probably go to Etheria Space if you want to get directly to me. Go to Etheria Space, reach out there. Yeah, and then that's always an opening, or just comment or anything. Again, there's so many different ones. I'm not going to explain that to you. And yeah, just to close off, this is video 100. I don't think I would have been able to think I'd be here at this point. I did think it would take longer starting at video number 1 to really have an established company, to have a team like we have now. We have an amazing team of people already. We're all incredible, really, really great people. And yeah, it went a little bit quicker than I thought. Kind of, yeah, thought by the end of the year I'd have this, but it's been less than a year. It's been 8 months or something. So really, really really grown. There's also the continuous growth, right? Like I said, if my head this took a year out of a 40-year plan, maybe we can do this whole thing in 20 years. Maybe we can do it in 10, like if stuff can move quicker and we can really, really change the world. And yeah, just imagine we will be at video 1,000, right? That's going to be in 10 years from now, or not really, it's not much of a year, maybe less, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, but we'll be in a very different place. I hope I'm still making these on a daily basis, but if not, whatever I'm doing then, I hope it's successful, I hope it's working. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully this put something in your mind. If you're watching this now, please reach out. That's again, last attempt at that. And if you're watching this in the future, after stuff happened, I hope everything worked out, or I really hope so. If it didn't, I hope you learned something from whatever ended up happening. But regardless, hope you enjoyed and good luck.